Good morning, buenos dias, and welcome to our Contours presentation on Uruguay. Today, my name's Ted, and it's my pleasure to tell you about Uruguay. Been there a couple of times, a tiny little country. This actually presentation is not going to take that long. So who we are, those of you who don't know us, it's Contours Travel. We've been operating since 1975, and we do and specialize only on Latin America, which is Mexico, Central America, and the 13 countries in South America, and Cuba, of course. Uruguay is the capital is Montevideo. Language is Spanish, obviously, about 3.4 million people. And it's just a nice country that's made up of rolling hills, pastures. It's devoted to agriculture, so it's quite famous for sheep and cattle and the estancias. And it's almost when I first went into Montevideo, I thought it was a suburb of Buenos Aires, but we're not allowed to see that. I'll tell you in a minute, apart from flying into Montevideo, you can cross by the ferries from Buenos Aires, which is just a very pleasant way of doing that. The seasons are very similar to ours, so Santiago, Buenos Aires and Montevideo are on that latitude of Melbourne and Sydney. Exchange rates there, of course, that changes on a regular basis. So what we're going to do today is, where's my here. So from Buenos Aires, we can cross by ferry into Colonia or Montevideo. All that is the rolling, beautiful countryside, unlike its neighbours with hills and mountains and snow-covered. This is a flat country, if you like, so it's perfect for the cattle and agriculture. And if you've got clients who are interested in agriculture, cattle, sheep, this is the place to visit. So apart from flying into the capital on an air pass with LATAM today, you can do a day, Buenos Aires to the colonial town of Colonia, as it's known, is about an hour. This particular ferry ride from Buenos Aires to Montevideo takes about 3 hours on this beautiful ferry. And the fascinating thing is that when there's a point here somewhere where you actually can't see any land, and you get that expression or that feeling that you're out in the ocean, but it's still the mouth of this mighty river. And this river actually, just for history's sake, originates back in Brazil, and it's known as the Parana and the Paraguay rivers, and the Iguazu River actually runs into the Paraguay River and the Parana, and it finishes up in this area, Rio de la Plata, the River of Silver. Montevideo, the capital, a beautiful colonial, lots of European type influences in architecture, Spanish, French, English. So it's a great little place to wander around in, and quite easy to get around. Restaurants, museums, architecture, parks and gardens. As I said, it's quite easy to do. So the other highlights are the countryside and two colonial towns, Colonia del Sacramento, and that's the one where you could go visit by ferry boat 1 hour from Buenos Aires. And this is a Portuguese colonial town, about the 17th century that they discovered this or established this as a port link for goods and services. So not only the old cars, but cobblestone streets, Portuguese architecture, and it's preserved in that beautiful state. So that's a nice day trip, if you like. But it's an entry point also to Colonia through there, and visit the countryside of Uruguay, and then you continue through to Montevideo, which is about an hour and a half bus ride from there. And a nice way of visiting. The other highlight of Montevideo, Uruguay, is, of course, it's quite famous for its beaches, and they're a little bit further east, up the coast towards the Brazilian border. And one of the most famous beaches is, or resort areas, is Punta del Este. The whole area is made up of hotels, holiday homes, amazing sort of buildings, but quite famous for its art also in these areas. So if people are looking for a beach holiday after the tours around South America, we send them off to Punta del Este, but only in the December through to March sort of period, same as ours. So the other highlight, of course, is the countryside, the cattle and agriculture, and the gaucho. And the gaucho is very similar to the ones in Argentina, because they sort of border each other, and the whole culture is expanded from that, running the huge cattle stations in the middle of nowhere. So it's as I said, rolling beautiful hills, cattle stations, intermittently with beautiful vineyards, sheep, and you actually can stay on these now. The last maybe 10, 15 years, they opened up this estancias where people can stay for 2 or 3 days or more and do horse riding and explore the countryside and get to know how the locals live as the local gaucho or the local cowboys. And we love the vineyards. As you know, I'm a bit partial to red wines, and this is no exception here too. So there's a particular place called Vic. I don't know. Yeah, it is there. They're just an amazing, and they also have vineyards in Chile, this particular organisation. So a beautiful hotel, small boutique hotels, estancias and vineyards to explore. So a bit of history and culture in Montevideo, and then go out into the countryside and visit these beautiful establishments and holidays that you can sort of relax on. So these are just a couple of designs. This place here is just a little bit further up from Punta del Este. If you're looking at a map, it's heading towards Brazil in that area. So probably just a nice way of relaxing after an end of a busy tour around South America. But so if your clients are into horse riding, drinking red wine, and enjoy the countryside, this is the place to visit. So these are just some of the ideas that we have here. You can do fly drives around these particular areas, and so you can hire a car and drive for 5 or 6 or 7 days, or do horse riding expeditions. It's also, the countryside's quite famous for bird watching. So if you've got clients that are interested in birds, this is another way of exploring the particular area. So our little packages can be, as I said, flying in or catching a ferry across to Colonia, traveling by bus into Montevideo. You can then fly out on an air pass or come back on the the 3. So that short one's about an hour, and this longer ride's about 3 hours. So from there you can build up the itineraries. The in town itself, so going into Colonia, then Montevideo. So the town itself is made up of, as I said, beautiful colonial buildings and architecture. But I forgot to mention that they also have a place called it's a port market area. And there's think of the Victoria Markets, if you like, a big shed, and it's just full of barbecue restaurants in there, barbecue, grilled, meat. So it's quite famous to walk in there and enjoy if your clients who love meat and love barbecues. And that's within walking distance of downtown Montevideo. So the packages will start from there and then build up into special interests. So that basically will cover, and this is what we do, and this is our brochure and our tour. As I said, it's quite a small country, and apart from cattle, agriculture, bird watching, wine drinking, fly drives, and even bike riding. That's what one would do in this beautiful small country called Uruguay. So we've got a page dedicated to that. So if you've got special interest, give us a call. Why would you book with us? As I said, we've been doing it for over 40 years. We're in our 42nd year, actually. All of us, Rod's been there, Heather's been there, Ted's been there, and I think, I know Ben's been there too. So we can help you design that. So only yesterday I got a call from a Queensland agent who said they wanted to take a family for horse riding and stay on that station for 5 days or more. So that's the sort of stuff that we can do for your clients. And that's all we do. We just love doing this. and we love selling and telling you about South America and your clients having a great trip. So we have a famil every maybe twice a year, and we'd like you to answer a question. And the question is, what are those cowboys called? And write to us, let us know, and put you in the draw. And I think if we get our seats from LATAM Airlines, we're going down to southern Patagonia about March or April next year. So thank you very much for listening and paying attention. I hope you have a great Friday and a great weekend. And we'll see you in a fortnight approximately.
Yep.
For our next webinar.
Which is Latin American feasts.
Latin America.
Feasts and festivals.
Food.
Feasts, as in celebrations and
feasts.
Feasts.
Fiestas.
Fiestas. Latin American fiestas.
Fiestas. We'll get it right one day. Thank you very much for paying attention and listening, as I said, and buenas tardes.